The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
The Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland, Ohio. But for this weekend, it's a race course for the IndyCars. In the Grand Prix of Cleveland, presented by Goodyear, the drivers are strapped in their cars. Let's go to the front row and Jack Arute.
Paul, by winning the pole position and the race at Detroit, this man, Paul Tracy, had a shot coming into Cleveland for a $1 million bonus. All he had to do is sit on the pole and win the race. Going into yesterday's final qualifying session, he had that pole position. But then this man, Nigel Mansell, unseated him off the pole in the last 4 minutes of qualifying. Then Emerson Fittipaldi took over the pole. And eventually his teammate, Al Unser Jr., took Paul Tracy off the pole position and snared it with 1 lap remaining in qualifying. When asked about taking his fellow driver out of the hunt for $1 million, Al Jr. reminded everyone 1 point is up for grabs for winning a pole position. He's in the chase for the championship, and that pays $1 million as well. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, Jack, right behind those 4 men here in the third row, 2 of the most exciting young stars in the IndyCar series. And we start with a young Canadian rookie at age 23, Jacques Villeneuve. He's been sensational. It's the 5th time this year he's qualified in the top 5, and in the last 4 events, he has finished in the top 10, including a dramatic second-place run at Indianapolis last May. Right alongside him in the third row, driving for Derek Walker, Robbie Gordon, age 25, currently 3rd in points. 4 times this year, he's been a top 5 finisher. He also had a great battle with Nigel Mansell for 4th at the checkered flag, nipping Mansell in the last race at Portland. Both of these young men hoping that maybe this is the day they can steal some of that spotlight from Team Penske. Paul?
Well, the Penske team may not have an extra $1 million in their pockets this weekend, but still they're in a most desirable position. The story of IndyCar racing this year has been the success of the Penske team. But behind that powerful image are 3 distinctly different men, each driven by an individual desire to win. Al Unser Jr. Jr. is hot. 2 weeks ago, he won at Portland's road course. His record speaks for his road racing savvy. Al's won at Cleveland before and has the pole today. Emerson Fittipaldi. The 3-time winner here and 2-time Indy 500 champion made his reputation with 27 years of road racing warfare. The flame of desire is still hot in his Brazilian heart. Paul Tracy. The winner of the road course on Belle Isle in Detroit. Paul is spectacular to watch and driven with desire. Desire is a key component to victory. Consider the start here a year ago. The desire to win drove men to the limit, then beyond. It was desire that put Mansell and Fittipaldi wheel to wheel, lap after lap. Paul Tracy desired the most and won. Can he do it again today? Well, it's another record crowd here in Cleveland ready to watch the IndyCars. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page. You know, when they talk about team racing in IndyCars, it really doesn't apply because despite the fact there are teams that exist, they don't race as teams, they race as individuals. And let's consider within that Penske organization, there's some real motivation here today. Al Unser Jr. wants to extend that points lead. He wants to be the IndyCar champion. His teammate Emerson Fittipaldi, on the other hand, lies in second and needs to get as many points as he can if he's going to battle Little L for the championship. And then there's Paul Tracy. Well, he needs some vindication. Another mistake cost a lot of money to the team. He needs a win just to prove he is very definitely in the fight. So when you talk about teams, I don't think we're going to see team cooperation here today. Now, let's take a look at the starting grid. The pole sitter is Al Unser Jr., his 3rd pole this season, which matches his previous career total. Alongside his teammate Paul Tracy, last year's winner missed his chance at $1 million by 11 thousandths of a second. In row 2, it's Emerson Fittipaldi. One of his 3 wins at Cleveland produced the current race record. And Nigel Mansell. This equals his worst start on a road course this year. In row 3, Jacques Villeneuve, the fastest Renard chassis for the 5th time this year. And Robbie Gordon, who has not finished worse than 7th since the season opener. In row 4, Mauricio Guzman continues to qualify well on the road courses. And Stefan Johansson, who finished 4th here last year. In row 5, it's Mario Andretti, the '88 Cleveland winner. And Bobby Rahal, his first career win came here in the inaugural event in 1982. In row 6, Jimmy Vasser and Mark Smith. The 7th row, Teo Fabi and Adrian Fernandez. Row 8, Scott Goodyear and Brian Herta. The 9th row, Michael Andretti, the '91 Cleveland winner, and Dominic Dobson. Row 10, Raul Boisel and Scott Sharp. The 11th row, Mike Groff and Ari Leyendyk. Row 12, Alessandro Zampedri and Andrea Montermini. Row 13, Hiro Mashushita and Marco Greco. Row 14, Willie T. Ribbs and Parker Johnstone. The 15th row, Giovanni Lavage and Ross Bentley. And alone in row 16, Jeff Wood. Well, the Indy cars are on the course, and when we come back, we'll have a green flag.
Welcome back to Cleveland, where the race that is about to unfold will mark the halfway point of the IndyCar season. It is a deceptive track because it's laid out on an airport where the runways intersect the taxiways. It is brutally rough, not as open and smooth as it looks when you glance out at the track. The drivers have to really wrestle with the cars, and you will see it for yourself because we have 5 terrific views with onboard cameras. With me is Bobby Unser, and Bobby, there's been a lot of talk about trouble at the start. How do you see it?
Well, more often than not there is, Sam, because the front straightaway is so wide, and when you go into the first turn, it gets real narrow. So sometimes they go in 5 and 6 abreast. They can't fit down in there, so they start banging each other, and more often than not, a lot of the drivers are all finished almost before they ever got the race started.
Well, this exciting start is just moments away, Paul.
The field is now in an alignment position going through the last chicane just before they come to the start-finish line. We watch for the green. Green is out, though. It seemed that Al Unser Jr. got a bit of a start. Now let's take a look at him. Spread out wide. Well, maybe they learned a little bit of a lesson from last year. Nope, not everybody. Michael in trouble. Michael wasn't here last year. So 2 cars together on the start. Scott Goodyear is one of them. Michael Andretti is the other.
Well, that's just very similar to what I thought was going to happen into the first turn.
Scott Goodyear back under power as we go back to the race itself. And Mansell has made his move and dropped into 3rd place. Out in the east loop of this track. Now making the turn along the main grandstand. Ahead of them is a right, then a quick left. Al Unser Jr., Fittipaldi, Mansell, and then Tracy.
It is an interesting statistic that only once has a leader of the first lap of this race gone on to win it.
Now here's the best place to pass. You can see Mansell going right down in there. He was feeling him out. He didn't pass there, but he's just going to try it pretty soon. Watch it because it's the easiest place on the track to do the passing.
Strung out single file right now, but still in hot pursuit is Nigel Mansell, who also has much to prove today. This time last year, he already had a couple of wins under his belt. He really wishes he were in that position now.
Mansell, by his standards, is having a terrible season. Winless, as you said. He had a foray into Formula One a couple of weeks ago in the French Grand Prix. He ran as high as 3rd, but broke down. It's not the kind of season which Mansell, who thrives on success and the adrenaline it brings, is having.
And has created ongoing speculation about where Mansell will drive next year. Will it be in the Indy cars? Or will it be in Formula One? The BBC is reporting today that Nigel Mansell will in fact be driving in Formula One next year.
Well, Paul, I believe that, and I believe that you're going to see Michael Andretti in his car next year. But I think what you're seeing this year with the Lola cars versus the Penske's, which right there, the car on the right, was Mansell. The red and white cars, of course, are the Penske cars. And what you're seeing is the Penske cars are more flexible. They are racing these cars exactly the same way that they qualify them. And Mansell, for example, the Lola cars, they have a problem. They get them tuned up really good, but the cars are almost too finely tuned, and they can get out of tune on the chassis just real easy.
Scott Goodyear, you saw, got back underway, and now Michael Andretti is underway as well, though he continues with a struggling season since that victory at the first race of the season in Australia, and for the second time in a row is the slowest of the Renard cars in qualifying here today. And then his problem on the start itself. One of the reasons that you want to qualify high up, you don't want to get caught in a mid-pack incident. Nothing changes in the top 4.
You can watch also the vapor coming off the rear wings. Look at the wings right there, the right and the left-hand side of the wings. That's the vapor in the air. It's kind of chilly today and got a lot of moisture. Hits the wings and it shows you what the aerodynamics are doing with the cars.
This, of course, is one of the wide runways that I spoke of, but they go off this into a right-left S-bend, and that's where it's extremely rough, where the runway intersects the taxiways.
Watching the rest of the field come through and centering up on Mauricio Gugelmin. We saw Robbie Gordon, Jacques Villeneuve, and here is Gugelmin, who currently runs, trying to catch up with a Renard of Villeneuve.
Watch the cars bounce. You can also see in this shot how close to the ground they get. The cars actually tip and touch the ground as they go through these turns, especially where it's really rough.
Mario Andretti on his Arrivederci tour. I'll tell you what, every city he goes to, there's plenty of folks turning out. His car is just always surrounded. Johansson makes a move to the inside, shows himself to Andretti. But that's not a corner to pass. The next one is.
Johansson in the blue and orange car.
Back at the front, Mansell very much on the move now.
This is Mansell's strongest show of the year. He was strong here last year, had a sensational battle with Emerson Fittipaldi. It shows that he obviously has a knack for this place. And I think one of the reasons for that, Paul and Bobby, is that he is able to dump the car into the turn and accelerate so hard out of the turn. It's a characteristic of his style and it really suits the way you have to drive this track.
Well, you know, Sam and Paul, I don't know a driver in this race that doesn't really like the Cleveland track, except for that spot right there just on camera. They can make mistakes all over the place, and at least they normally don't have crashes from it.
But you do get beaten up something bad. You walk up and down pit lane and you see guys wearing you know, padding on their elbows and Band-Aids on their hands.
Mansell closing on Paul Tracy. It is still Al Unser Jr., Paul Tracy, Nigel Mansell, and then Emerson Fittipaldi. We may have suggested that Fittipaldi was in second place when in fact it is Paul Tracy. And Fittipaldi sits back and forth. And this is the battle on the track, these three cars right here. Fittipaldi waiting station, if you can say that at the kind of speeds the IndyCars turn.
Fittipaldi is the most successful of all the drivers historically at this track with his 3 wins, most laps led. So you know he goes into the race with an extremely confident attitude, if perhaps not quite the speed of Al Unser Jr. and Paul Tracy, his teammates.
You know, if you watch the bumps as the cars go around the track here, realize that the driver's seats, their rear ends, are only like 1.5 inches from the ground. So when the car touches the ground, which it does, it has skid pads on the front and the back, it really hits the spines. Like little Al has been in and out of the doctors all weekend because he's got problems with his spine from all the bumps here.
Well, Scott Goodyear, as you know, had his problems on the start, went in and out of the pits. Jack Arute, you have an update?
Well, Paul, they checked after he had the problem on the start. Scott Goodyear came in, but on the way out after the mandatory check on the condition of the car, they found nothing wrong, but Goodyear exceeded the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit. So once again, he was brought into pit road that last lap, and he was given what's called a stop and wait penalty. A stop for 5 seconds, and then he was sent back on his way. Things are not going well for the Budweiser crew. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, Jack, as far as Michael Andretti is concerned, who was involved in that incident on the green flag in turn number 1, the crew expected once Michael got restarted that he would come in. They laid out fresh tires over the wall, but Michael stayed on course. So obviously the car has responded okay. He just lost a considerable amount of time. He stays out there now at the back of the pack.
Of course, Scott Goodyear this weekend, we see
Jimmy Vasser had an onboard fire.
Back.
Second race in a row, he is out very early. Bad for Jimmy Vasser, the driver of the Conseco STP car.
He's really an upcoming driver and really looks good this year. It's a shame.
One thing we should perhaps say about that stop and wait penalty, if you have a stop and go here at Cleveland, you can actually get out on the course and gain position because of the nature of the layout of the pits. So when they bring him in for a stop and go, they'll also hold him sometime to make the penalty a valid penalty. Al Unser Jr., car 31, leads here, followed by his teammate Paul Tracy, with Nigel Mansell doing everything he can to close in. And the leaders are already encountering the slower traffic. Watch him right here for the moment as Mansell trying to catch Tracy.
Down that long back straightaway, second fastest place on the track.
This is the fastest road course that they run on all year.
Lavage. Something's broken. Looks like a water pipe in the back. A lot of steam coming over the top of that car.
That probably means an engine went, Paul, and it got into the water. That's really an expensive type of a brake.
Unplug your helmet there. There you go.
This is the car that Buddy Lazier usually drives. He's not missing much today.
Back at the front, Al Unser Jr. Nearly 5 seconds ahead of his nearest rival. Exactly the same pattern that he established at Portland 2 weeks ago. There's the leader coming through over in the East End. Second place is Paul Tracy. And Nigel Mansell right on top of him.
You can notice that Nigel is running a little bit tighter line than Tracy is. Being a little bit conservative. Remember, they both realize it's very early in the race. Look at all the vapor coming off their wings as they go fast down the straightaways.
You see the bumpiness there as we ride with Nigel Mansell. Whenever they make the right-left combinations and go from the runways to the taxiways, that's where the roughness exists. Out on the runways themselves, it's pretty smooth.
You got a glimpse of the top six. Seventh is Mauricio Guzman. Eighth is Mario Andretti. Stefan Johansson is ninth. And Bobby Rahal. This is the first track Rahal ever won on. He currently runs in 10th.
And of course, when he was introduced to the crowd before the start, a terrific ovation. He comes from Ohio. He's really popular here.
In fact, folks in the Buckeye State have more than one driver to cheer for here, because Brian Herta goes to Ohio State. In fact, just finished his junior year there. Would you like to be doing that? Wouldn't you like to have been driving an IndyCar and going to college at the same time? What a life.
Wouldn't that be a life? The cars, incidentally, also we might watch for during the races. This historically is a bad track for transmission. You can see with all the bumps. You can watch us. We were on board with Nigel Mansell a while ago, all the shifting that goes on. The bumps really affect the transmissions bad.
Mario Andretti now challenging Mauricio Guzman. This is a fight for 7th place. Guzman, the 88 cars, they both duck inside slower traffic, and Guzman holds Mario Andretti off. Gary Gerald, do you have an update on Herta while we watch this battle? Well, no, let's hold it just a second. Mario makes his move to the outside. Can he sweep in the corner across the front of Guzman?
Remember, too, a battle between different chassis. Guzman now, Mario back on the inside. A beautifully executed pass by Mario. Mario in the Lola, Guzman in the Renard, a car all new for the season this year, and he's got the inside line. Nope.
You should not eliminate the fact that Stefan Johansson is sitting just behind him as well. So that's a good tight battle. Gary Gerald, Brian Herta has rolled to a stop on the front stretch. Can you update us now?
Can't tell you what that problem is. It's just the culmination of a horrendous weekend. Contact with Lavaggi in yesterday's practice session. Had to go to the backup car to qualify. Then this morning, a motor problem. Had to change engines. They started the race with radio problems. Now, here's a new complication. This has been a real tough couple of days for one of the local favorites.
Alan, you saw in that fight, too, that Johansson also got his way around Guzman, so that puts Mario up a position into 7th. And Johansson into 8th, and Guzman drops back to 9th. And just behind him now is Bobby Rahal. As you can see them trying to push Brian Herta's car over to the edge of the course and get it out of harm's way. So at the top of the order with a 5-second lead is Al Unser Jr. His teammate Paul Tracy is in 2nd place. In 3rd is Nigel Mansell. And the battle with Mario Andretti and the rest has broken off for the moment. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Gary, Al Unser Jr. is the first of the Team Penske cars to come in. His teammate Paul Tracy now will dart directly in front of him. Now, they're not going to make any changes on Al Jr.'s car. Their work is almost completed. In the interim, as Al Unser Jr. goes out, Paul Tracy will take a wing adjustment on the front wing. Watch for a twist, maybe a slight turn. There it is. They've completed their work. They'll go out and away now. We also received word, Paul, that Mario Andretti is the next guy to get a speeding ticket on pit road. He's being called back in for exceeding the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Well, you know, one of the things that's happening on that, Paul, is Andretti, for example, is at the far end of the pits, and those guys think down there, and they have been during the practice, immune from the radar detector that tells their speed.
Oh, they think they're beyond it.
Well, they think they're beyond it. That's what they've been doing, and they were getting by with it in practice, and I have a hunch that Card was able to catch up and catch him doing this.
So Little Al in, Paul Tracy in, Nigel in, Emerson Fittipaldi picks up the lead of the race, but he comes in as well. And Gary Gerald waits for him.
We watch over the wall. Now we see the nose of the car. He's coming in hot, Paul. Doesn't have to lock it up. He hits the spot, and that is so important because of the length of the fuel hose, of course. Watching and listening now with the crew. No changes as far as wing setups on the front of the car. The Penske machine is off in 15.2 seconds.
And you talk about lighting the tires. Nice going, Mo. Again, the traction control question, at least there, has been answered.
Yeah, that's for sure. And again, these cars here don't have complete locked rear end. That's where the left rear tire and the right rear tire turn the same speed as they do on an oval. Here, they run limited slips in the rear end. So that's the reason you see the cars a little bit snakier coming out of the pits than you do on an oval track.
You know, Bobby, one surprise that I had here this weekend is several people asked me about the power of the Mercedes engine in these cars. The word doesn't seem to have totally gotten out among all race fans that the Mercedes engine was good only at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and they are back to running the Ilmor engine.
Yes, they're absolutely running what is determined as to be the stock Ilmor. In other words, the standard engine that anybody can buy. The Mercedes engine, unfortunately, we'd all like to see it the rest of the year, but it's out of the business at least until Indianapolis next year.
So for the leader, Al Unser Jr., who reassumes the lead, 30 laps are now complete. The first round of pit stops is also finished. 85 laps, the scheduled distance here, 201.37 miles in the Budweiser Grand Prix of Cleveland, presented by Goodyear, and Al Unser Jr. is showing his incredible power of both himself and this remarkable Nigel Bennett chassis. What a great design it's been.
Let's keep in mind one thing. Little Al right there in the 31 car has back problems. His back is really hurting him. All of these bumps, look what the car's going through there. It's really bothering his back a lot, and of course, from my standpoint, I hope it doesn't bother him during the race.
Paul, you mentioned Nigel Bennett, the designer of the Penske cars. I had a wonderful talk with him the other day. I congratulated him on the success of the season. He quickly said, remember, the season's just half over. There's a lot left to go. And I said, well, why are the cars so much better than they were last year? He said, first of all, they're only a little bit better, but my design philosophy is each year to eliminate another mistake that I made the year before. Try to make fewer and fewer mistakes. And really, in a sense, with this year's car, it seems that he's made really almost no mistake. Although in his mind, I'm sure there's some shortcomings that he'll improve next year.
Well, how perfect and how methodical. Al Unser Jr., an 8-second lead over the second place Nigel Mansell, followed by Fittipaldi, Tracy, and Alessandro Zampedri is moving up into the top of the order as well. Overhead, the Burke Lakefront Airport floats one of America's most enduring corporate symbols, the Goodyear blimp. Here today to help us with coverage of the Cleveland Grand Prix presented by Goodyear. There she is in a gray sky and looking down on Mario Andretti, who took a sudden and quick spin actually over on the straightaway and then drove the car across the track and climbed out with damage to the left front. So we'll have to find out what caused the spin. It seems like it was contact with something or somebody.
Well, obviously his left front bent really bad, the suspension is, Paul, so he had to have contact with somebody, it would be my guess, especially the way it's bent.
Emerson Fittipaldi now closing on Nigel Mansell and has him in his sights. That's Mark Smith, who had a great qualification effort here today, just between them. Fittipaldi looking for a position alongside Smith. He's got him, and now he is in contact with Nigel Mansell in the battle for second place.
Remember, both Nigel Mansell and Emerson Fittipaldi, former world champions, but belonging to a different era in Formula One, more than 10 years apart, their championships, now racing almost wheel to wheel here in Cleveland.
You know, the one thing that Nigel wants to do, like right now with Emil breathing down his back like that, he wants to have just enough gap where these guys in front of him don't interfere with getting caught. In other words, that's how he was able to pass a little while ago, and he doesn't want to get caught in that. Look at all this traffic coming up. This is where things really change. Now, Emil's pressing hard to try to catch Nigel in a bad position right now.
It says something about Nigel's motivation, Bobby. Don't you think that even as talk seeps out through the press that he probably won't be doing IndyCar racing next year, he's still fully motivated to succeed wherever possible in the remaining races this year?
Oh, he's a thoroughbred, Sam. There's no question about that.
You know, and when you consider how good everyone says the Penske chassis is, look at the drive that Nigel's been involved in to keep the Lola configuration in a constant form of competition with the Penskes. It's either he or Gordon that's always running at the front. Now he's got some serious concerns on slower traffic in front.
I still think that the Lola chassis has to be too fine-tuned in order to stay where it's running right now.
We've got a battle going here. Nigel Mansell being charged. And while we watch this, let's try and get an update on Mario Andretti's situation, Jack.
Well, Paul, for the last time in his driving career, Mario Andretti has come out of the cockpit in Cleveland. What broke on the car, Mario?
Nothing broke. Well, it broke after I got hit. The car number one just miscued there a little bit, and he hit me on the left front, and then broke the right. It broke the wishbone.
A tough break, but looking at the track conditions the way they are, what is your assessment of the change in the weather? How has it affected the cars?
Oh, everything for the better. I think everybody's going quicker. The times that we're running out there are almost qualifying times, so the tires and everything are just taking a big breather today.
A teammate of yours, Nigel Mansell, you say is the one that hit you. What do you say to him?
I'm sure he didn't want to do it, but could have been more careful too.
Paul?
Oh, got chunked by his own teammate, Bobby.
Well, I think it kind of shows you one thing, that teammates don't plan races out and teams don't tell who's going to do what during the race. I think that's kind of the proof of the pudding right there.
Well, Nigel Mansell now becomes a question mark on the line, sitting currently scored in second place. But if that damage happened to Mario's car, what kind of damage might Nigel have?
Well, not really probably going to have any damage, because the rear is much stronger than the front. You can just see the mass in the rear as compared to the front. And Mario said that Nigel hit his rear on Mario's front. Mario's the one that went away. Nigel's rear obviously is okay because he's still flying.
All right, but let me ask you something else. This track is rough. You've already said that. Physically rough. There's a lot of travel in the suspension here. In the past, it has damaged half shafts and constant velocity joints in the rear suspension. Could this extra blow make a difference?
Not really to that, Paul, because the bumps are going to get the transmission and the drive shafts, the CV joints, as you mentioned, but it's really not going to get the suspension as much as you might think.
Boy, Nigel's really got his work cut out for him. That's Michael Andretti in the red car right ahead of him right now. Teo Fabi in the yellow car, one step up. He's got to get by both these men who are extremely aggressive and who are having their own battle before he can be sure that he's safely in front of Emerson Fittipaldi. Of course, he's dogging him.
And that's one thing they don't like to do. Those guys in the front that are having their own battle don't like to be bothered by somebody that's going faster than them.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of pride at stake.
All right, as we watch this battle, which is broken off for the moment, it gives us a chance to take a look at the confrontation between Mario and Nigel Mansell. And that's the bump right there.
So Nigel's first reaction was anger.
Yes,
he thought Mario pulled in on him, which I don't think was the case, but you can see how totally unintentional it was.
Yeah, that was a decision that, boy, there was a close one right there.
Well, this is a decisive moment, because remember, you talked about Michael Andretti here in the red car on the right, taking over the seat next year on Newman Haas from Mansell. So there's a lot at stake right here.
As Nigel moves under inside Michael. Boy, look at Michael. He's coming right back at him.
This is the great racing for which Cleveland is famous. Remember the battle between Emerson Fittipaldi and Nigel last year.
On board Michael. That's Nigel just ahead. Emerson's about 8 inches behind.
Now, Michael's going to try to keep up with Nigel, but I promise you, he's not in the same class. That car has not been as fast as Nigel, although you could see the killer instincts in Michael. As soon as he got past, boy, he really started going for it.
Well, Nigel, of course, is lapping Michael, so that's decisive as to the difference in speed of the cars. Notice that roughness as they go through those S-bends, though. Lap after lap after lap. If you're at the wheel, you're really taking a beating.
You know, Sam, that could be very well what's wrong with Michael. His speed has not been good for the whole weekend. And it just could be that he just can't seem to get that Renard chassis working through the bumps. If you can't work in the bumps here, you might as well just know you're going to have problems all day.
The Burke Lakefront Airport. For all weekends in the year except this, it is that, a general aviation airport. But today it's a race course for the Indy cars, 2.3 miles around, 10 turns. 40 laps are now complete, and Al Unser Jr. is 18 seconds out in front. We'll be back. Brushed the wall earlier. This is a lap earlier. Keep an eye on number 1 there.
Oh, look at that. That's
just
fire.
Rear tire only, though.
That was fire was a magnesium. The wheels are made out of magnesium.
And the leader, Al Unser Jr., is in the pits. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, direct your attention to the front of the car, the wing area. The word we've received is that Al Unser Jr. has requested a wing adjustment. After they complete their work, we'll look to see if they give him it. Looks as if they won't. They may have thought better of it. Stay with what you've got. In 13.7 seconds, a nominal, normal pit stop for Team Penske once again.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'd want to change something working that good.
Nigel, of course, has now had contact with Mario with his right rear wheel and with a wall with his left rear wheel.
That's both rear ends.
Would you want to be driving that car, Bobby? I don't know.
Maybe it's back in line now. So Al Unser Jr., the leader, makes his second stop. That gives the lead over to Nigel Mansell, but of course he is due in very shortly, as is Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, and the rest of the front of the order.
Now, the one you saw with Nigel going out and hitting the wall with his left rear, now I promise you, that could hurt something a little bit. When you saw all that magnesium flare up, it takes some pressure to do that.
But if it's only in the wheel, then this pit stop should cure the problem, right?
Yes, and they'll change that for sure, Paul, and it definitely hurt the wheel for sure.
Well, you're just in front of that wheel that is the question mark. Gary Gerald is waiting while the Newman-Haas team is ready to do some repairs. Maybe they can button the camera down a little bit too. Gary?
They warned him of speed as he came down pit road. No problems. We can see where the left rear brushed the wall. Actually, they call it white walling the tire. Mansell, who ran in Formula One at France last week, said it was smooth as a billiard table. Said when he came to Cleveland, it was a real shock to the system. But in 14 seconds, he's back out, and no apparent damage to any of the suspension.
And I hope careful about the speed limit. His teammate suffered from that earlier. Jack?
Well, Paul Tracy gets out and away as well. They made a wing adjustment on his car. He does not exceed the speed limit, at least according to the one that was posted. The only member of Team Penske left the pit.
Whoa.
Michael Andretti down inside of Paul Tracy, Jack.
One of the things, Sam, that happens, you know, there is a right-hand turn as you exit pit road. You are literally high up on the throttle, and you find yourself weaving right into turn number 2. So it gets a little dicey coming out of the pits.
Well, exactly, Jack. We just saw some of the better racing of the day right there at that turn you described.
Emerson Fittipaldi in now, Jack Arute.
And Emerson Fittipaldi looking to make up time. The crew goes to work. We'll see if they make any adjustments on the machine or not. It looks as if it's going to be only tires. Rick Reineman and the team, they check the radiators for debris, taking on a full load of fuel. They drop the jacks, and Emerson is away in 14.7 seconds. And he almost has a problem going out of pit road as he found traffic overcoming him on driver's right.
That was Gugelmin who came out along with Fittipaldi, and of course Al Unser Jr. will move back into the lead of the race, and Nigel Mansell and Fittipaldi will come out side by side in a battle for position.
There's Nigel right in front of, Emerson right in front of Nigel now, and maybe this is Nigel's best moment to get by him right there under braking.
Now, they didn't see that coming. Nigel was not expecting that. That was a total surprise to him. But, boy, did he react at the next turn.
Isn't it amazing, given the number of variables in a pit stop, pulling in, getting the car stopped, having it all happen to your car, and then getting back out, that they resume exactly the way they left off.
Look at they come out now. Of course, Nigel is on a little warmer tire, so it's sticking a little bit better. First, he gets past, and then he comes right back and takes over the position.
And you notice how quickly Emo moved over into an aggressive position where Nigel had to go around it.
Emo did a good job there.
They both did.
So Nigel Mansell in a battle with Fittipaldi is back into second place. The leader is Al Unser Jr., and we are having a great time in Cleveland. 62 laps of 85 complete. Al Unser Jr. is still the leader.
Really, one aggressive driver. The guy in the blue and white car, the player's car there, he's the most aggressive young man I have seen in years, Paul.
And easily, wouldn't you say, Bobby, the discovery of the season?
I think he's the discovery of many seasons that we've had.
Right,
I think he's really good.
He's leading in the Rookie of the Year points, leading Scott Sharp, who's also having a good season, but nothing as spectacular as this young man.
Top Reynard in the field right now, looking very solid. Just ahead of him is Willie T. Ribbs, the service merchandise car.
Willie is always good for a quote, and I asked him yesterday what it was like to drive around this track. He said, it's as bad as a rough night in Harlem.
Well, there's a good race driver in the Trans Am. Boy, Willie T. was untouchable for a long time. He's not done quite as well with the IndyCar. He's had a lot of different rides. There you see Villeneuve trying to get by Willie T. But he's going to catch on one of these days, and when he does, he's going to be as tough here as he has been in the Trans Am cars.
Do you think, in the case of Willie T., that as his teammate Robbie Gordon comes past trying to get his way back up through the field again, that all of that time in Trans Am cars may have hindered him, may have taught him techniques and styles that he's having trouble shaking now that don't apply to the Indy cars?
I totally agree with you, Paul, 100%. I think it's created bad habits for him, and I think he just stayed there a little bit too long. But I also know this, people, human beings are capable of changing. One of these days, he's going to catch on, he's going to get the right signal, and he's going to take off because he is one.
Whoa!
Emerson
Locked him up totally as Fittipaldi.
That's turn one.
Misjudged the braking area in turn one, and now is falling backwards as he's got to get it back up to speed. That was costly. There's also a continuing display of smoke at the back of the car.
Yes, and that wasn't dust for a while. It was too much smoke.
And there is Paul Tracy behind him. Now remember, Tracy was running fourth behind Fittipaldi, and you see he's right on top of him now. There goes.
And Fittipaldi's got more than a brake problem. He's got an engine problem. I wonder if he wasn't sliding in his own oil.
He probably really was, because he's definitely got smoke coming out. And
let's look at it again here, Bobby. Here comes Emo into the braking zone.
Yeah, and here he is. He's awfully late. He's too late on the brake, and no smoke right now, though. Now we've got a lot of smoke coming down. Front tire's locking up, and there's smoke in the rear. You can see smoke now, and he's not to the turn yet. So obviously he's broken something. Could be the rear end.
There's more than one problem there, Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, believe it or not, Paul Tracy, his teammate, radioed into the crew to let them know that the rear end of the car was literally on fire. So they are calling Emerson Fittipaldi in right now.
Oh, no, he's not coming in. He's stopped on the edge of the course. Black smoke poured out of the exhaust here. Fittipaldi's out of the car as they put the fire out. He was in no danger with it.
You can see that dark gray smoke coming out of it. That's material burning, like carbon fiber, oil combination, but not steam from the engine.
All right, let me ask you the question then, Bobby. We talking circuit roughness? Is that something to do with the rear suspension of the car?
Well, I don't really think so. He could have had a transmission problem going. Most likely he had brakes overheating. This track is really hard on brakes.
So Emerson Fittipaldi is out of the fight. His teammate Al Unser Jr. continues to lead. And Paul Tracy now moves up to third place with the retirement of Fittipaldi. 71 laps now complete. 85 laps the scheduled distance here, 201 miles. Fight broken off for the moment. There comes Fernandez, the lone driver for the Gallus team, which in the past has been a multi-car team with such greats as Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. Danny Sullivan, by the way, is on the grounds here thinking about next year. One of the other drivers that constantly gets named for places like Newman Haas Racing. What do you think of that, Bobby?
Well, I really personally don't think Danny is going to be back. I think in his mind he's kind of retired, but you and I have a little bet on it, so we'll see how that comes out next year.
I think he'd like to be with Newman Haas, don't you?
Well, that might motivate a guy a little bit. Newman Haas is a pretty good team.
I was going to say, who wouldn't? By the way, way, Danny Sullivan, AJ, Davy Jones, Gary Bentonhausen, all of those drivers that are currently on the entry to the Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You will see coverage here on ABC Sports. Looking back for Stefan Johansson. That, of course, is not him. Stefan's just behind the 19 MyJack car.
The red and the blue car, Stefan Johansson. One heck of a good driver. Really been grinding hard today.
And another promising driver, Alessandro Zampedri, who's being just lined up now by Stefan Johansson. Zampedri on the right, bright young talent, I think, from Brescia, Italy, where the Mille Miglia used to start from. Zampedri, who I talked to, Gary and I both did at some length the other day, talked about his background in Formula 3000 in Europe and how he's making the adjustment to the Indy cars. You see, he's having a beautiful run against Johansson.
Johansson, of course, driving for Tony Bentonhausen, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Alumax, the sponsor on the car. Just behind them, you get a glimpse from time to time as Nigel Mansell closes in. Johansson runs in 5th place. He's having a marvelous day. You see Nigel right up in the corner of the screen there as we look down from the Goodyear blimp.
Johansson driving for car owner driver Tony Bentonhausen.
Well, this gives you an idea. It is truly an airport. There's runway 24 right. They come off onto the taxiways.
But you know, I gotta say again about Zampedri. Here's a car, and then the Johansson's making a bid. We'll see if this is a clean shot. Yep, he lets him go by. That's a nice, clean thing, not for position. Zampedri's running 10th, and it's not often that you see Dale Coyne's equipment running that far up front. Robbie Buell was their driver the early part of the season. He was usually mired down around 18th or 20th. So this is a real good day for Dale Coyne.
Dale Coyne, who used to be a driver, Sam, I think he's kind of relates to the drivers pretty well.
You know, one of the interesting things about the Burke Lakefront Airport is it being a FAA runway airport facility. Naturally, there are a lot of planes landing here, so there's a buildup of rubber on what is already a fairly abrasive concrete straightaway for the Indy cars. And the guys the first couple of years were so surprised where they'd come sliding out and they'd hit that area where all the rubber had been laid down by the aircraft, and the car would just suddenly stick real good and launch ahead. So now they've made it part of the whole way that they race here at the Burke Lakefront Airport. So Al Unser Jr. is out in front now with 75 laps complete. He is dominating this race here. We will be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. The waterfront of Cleveland, Ohio. The view is down from the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company blimp. They've dispatched the blimp Spirit nearby Akron, Ohio, to provide aerial views of the 1994 Cleveland Grand Prix. There she is, floating overhead, giving us some great coverage shots as well today.
Yeah, you know, they didn't have to come very far to get to this race. Those guys really like that.
We got our boat parked down there in the marina. Boy, look at this. There's some spectators on the side. Hi, Ari. Hi, Emerson. Emerson doesn't even know we're here.
Well, there's two drivers that are sorry they're out of the race. Look at them. Well, you can just see him out there just grinding his teeth saying, wow, I wish I was still in there.
I'm not even going to ask why they were out there, though. Jack
in front of the toilet.
Jack?
Well, problem on Mike Groff, he's come to rest in what we call the back 40 of the mains of the racetrack. He's not going to be able to make it back in without a tow. The reason, the fuel pump let go on the race car, so it's an early exit for Mike Groff.
Well, that's too bad.
More Honda problems. Isn't that a shame?
Yeah, but boy, when they get it going, get out of their way.
There are 3 Honda engines that started the race. Now just one in the car of Parker Johnstone is still running. That one not in contention.
And most of these Honda engines, incidentally, under different configurations.
Mauricio Gugelmin now in a fight with Fernandez. Battle for 7th.
I started to say the Honda engines are different configurations. They have some of the engines, like in Ray Hall, they fire 2 pistons at once, like they do the Ford and the Ilmor engines. And the others are like normal passenger car engines. They're different configurations from Honda, so they can try to do their development at a faster pace.
Bobby, it's interesting. The one that's still running is the older configuration Honda engine. The 2 newer ones had trouble. They've tried all sorts of stuff in the last couple of weeks. They've had 4 test days. They tried a new plenum. It didn't work out, but they've got a fire lit underneath them over at Honda, and they're trying to be competitive now.
So watching Gugelmin and Fernandez. Fernandez sweeps to the inside, and he's got him.
A favorite place to pass, right going into turn 1.
Fernandez grabs 7th.
Often the guys pass like that, then you would see the other guy come back again, somewhat like Emo did when he came out of the pits.
These are two Reynard cars. Reynard, of course, being the new chassis manufacturer, new to the series this year.
And started off winning, of course, at Australia. So we thought maybe they were going to dominate all year, but they seem to. There's Michael stopping for some reason.
Another Renard.
Another
as he comes
Renard.
to a stop at the edge of the course. IndyCar safety team right there to get him clear of traffic. Look at the nose of the car.
Yes, he's definitely got the right front. Looks like it's bent too. The nose got bumped and the right front bent, so he probably ran into somebody else.
The nose actually was damaged earlier, so there's been yet another incident. Here's Teo Fabi. Now look at this combination. Fabi, of course, had a brilliant start in IndyCar racing back in 1983 when he had the pole for so many races, won several races. Now the word is this might be his last year in IndyCar racing. Apparently Jim Hall has tested a driver in secret, a young driver whose name has not been released yet, at Rattlesnake Raceway, Hall's private test track down in Texas. The idea is that Fabi may be on his way out. Now Fabi had a brilliant fourth place at Detroit a few weeks ago. You see Al Unser Jr. coming by him with great ease there. I don't think there's any question. I don't think anyone, even within the team, questions Fabi's ability. It's the idea of getting some new blood and reconstituting the team.
Dale Fabi runs in 9th place. In 10th place is Alessandro Zampedri. And Robbie Gordon, owing partially to driving and partially to attrition, is moving up. And Gordon now runs in 11th place. Michael Andretti, of course, retired as you look at the running order 5 laps ago now. 81 laps now complete. We're in the closing stages of this race. Is this man going to do it again? Boy, it sure looks that way. But one can't forget, when you have an onset like Fittipaldi had that took him out of the race, if I'm in one of those other cars, Bobby, I got to be thinking, have I got the same engineering problem?
Well, they're evaluating that. I promise you, that's an advantage to having 1, 2, or 3 cars. There's a lot of disadvantages, of course, but that's one of the advantages. You have problems with one, you look at the other. But when Little Al came in her pit stops, they're obviously looking really close at the car so they can tell whether to slow down, keep its pace, or speed up.
Well, Penske domination has been the story of the season this year so far. But except for Al Unser Jr.'s performance today, the Penske team has not been dominant. Mansell has been very fast. Emerson Fittipaldi has had trouble. And unusually enough, Paul Tracy has not shown exceptional speed. He's third now. He's never been up front in this race. And it's only Al Unser Jr. that's really held the pace for Penske.
Normally, you'd say this is Tracy's track.
One of the other things about running on an airport circuit, they will not let the IndyCar officials install the specialized computer antenna lines that sense the car's passage over the track. And so we don't have our usual EDS scoring here, back to the old manual scoring system. And so we're not able to bring in quite as many representations of the field as we would like to, but we are getting some great help from Russ Thompson and Fran Leonard, who have been keeping track of everything here in the booth for us and doing a superlative job in doing that. Money comes right here, guys, no problem at all. Al Unser Jr. out in front. Nigel Mansell runs in 2nd place, but it's a long way to go to get up to the front.
But you can see from the beating that the drivers take here that at any moment something can go wrong. A suspension part break.
Just watch Nigel's head right there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really getting a lot of beating. Looks like he's getting beat up pretty bad.
Airplanes, of course, have a lot more suspension travel than IndyCar.
Yeah, about 5 feet compared to 5 inches.
Just look at little Al's head go up and down those last bumps that he went through. Really a rough course. He'll be sore tonight.
And you say little Al is actually suffering from some back problems, but do any of you notice that when you're in the car?
Absolutely. He is so sore getting into it. They've already had to change his seat, Paul. He was doing that yesterday. I was down this morning popping his back. He's been down with the doctors while they've been working on it.
Jim Swintown with the white flag. 1 more lap to go for Al Unser Jr.
And he's up right behind Villeneuve, who is almost to get lapped, but of course it won't make any difference at this point in the race.
So Al Unser Jr. from the pole to a win here if he can only complete this lap, and that seems so very certain at this point. In a marvelous season for little Al.
Remember, this will make 5 out of 6 times that Al Unser Jr. has started from the pole and gone on to win the race.
You know, he's going to outdo his father's record here, his dad Big Al's record before too long, because he's winning an awful lot of races this year. He's already getting up with A.J. Foyt and my brother Al.
Now, your brother's one thing. He goes after your record. That's real trouble, right?
Terrible.
So Al Unser Jr. down the final long straightaway, looking at career win number 24 and the 5th of the year. A right and then a left. And then a checkered flag lies in wait on the runways of the Burke Lakefront Airport. And Al Unser Jr. has taken his 5th win of the year and stretches his points lead in the IndyCar battle for the championship. Raul Boesel, Adrian Fernandez just behind him. A battle for 6th place. Can Fernandez get him before the line? The only battle left on the track as it turns for home.
It's going to be hard, but he's going to try.
Fernandez trying to catch up. Just a few hundred feet to go. He might be able to get it done.
Don't think he's going to do it, Paul.
Nope. Comes off the corner with a valiant effort and really swings out to try and get all the momentum he can, but he can't catch Raul Boesel, so they finish Unser Jr., Mansell, Paul Tracy in 3rd, Jacques Villeneuve, Stefan Johansson, Raul Boesel, Adrian Fernandez, Mauricio Gugelmin, and Teo Fabi.
You know, I think the biggest thing that's going to help little Al so far this season is this race, because this is the race where he won and Emo fell out. That's where he really makes a gain on the points.
All right, take a look at this. 1-1. What a play on words. Starting on the pole, finishing 1st. 5th time in his career.
And only once did he not accomplish that feat. And that was at Australia several years ago when he finished 1st, started 1st and finished 4th. It's interesting, all 4 winners from the pole at Cleveland have been driving for Roger Penske. Sullivan, Fittipaldi, Tracy, and Al Unser Jr. now.
Al Unser Jr., when he is hot, he is sizzling. And here at the Burke Lakefront Airport, he has taken the win. We'll be back. Unofficial for the moment in the Grand Prix of Cleveland presented by Goodyear, but it seems certainly official that Al Unser Jr. has taken the win, Jackaroo.
And Paul, he did it with a record speed of 138.3 miles per hour. Congratulations, man. Number 5 for the season.
Yeah, I tell you, I just got to thank the whole Marlboro Team Penske. This car is such a beautiful race car, and Ilmore engines, they've done their homework. You know, we're running right with the Cosworths, and so, you know, what can I say? It was a good day for the team.
What does a solid race car do for the mindset for a driver?
Well, it just, you know, it shows on the first lap. You know, the first couple laps, you know, we kind of just pulled away from him, and makes it you start concentrating on your line instead of the guy behind you, and you can really start making everything happen for you, and the car just responds really well, and so it's great.
You know, it was one thing winning the Indianapolis 500. People said, well, he had the Mercedes engine. But now, with the domination that you and the entire team is having, if you were on the other side of the coin like you were in other years, what would you be telling your crews right now about Team Penske?
Well, I'd tell you, I've been in that spot before, you know, and I've told them, gosh, they're just unbeatable. But this team is really a great team, and the car is a great car. And you know, Richard Buck and the guys are just doing a great job preparing it, and so it's going to the end, and that's what we need.
With Roger Penske at the head of things, you've had a lot of great car owners, you've had a lot of great relationships with car owners, but what's the relationship between you and Roger Penske, and how is it developing and maturing as the season progresses?
Well, it's maturing really well. You know, we're getting to know each other more and more, and you know, me and Terry Satchel, my engineer, are starting to get to know each other more and more, and it's just great. You know, I'm starting to tell in Roger's tone about what's going on, and so it's wonderful.
You know, before the start of the race, on camera, we talked about the fact that you knocked your teammate, Paul Tracy, out of the hunt for the $1 million bonus. But people forget that Team Penske has not been in the national championship limelight for what, maybe 7 years now, and that's really what your concentration is about.
That's right. You know, Roger, last time he won this championship was 1988, and I run second that year, and so the main thing about, you know, when we were talking about him hiring me and all that, he said all I wanted is the number 1 on the car, and so that's all we're trying to give him.
Well, he's looking for that number 1, and Gary Gerald, it doesn't ever get to be old hat in victory lane for Team Penske.
We'll be back right after this.